Good evening, and afternoon or morning, depending on when you're watching us. But if you're watching us live on tonight, it is Money Monday, and I'm Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. We're so excited to have you tonight on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. We want to encourage you to continue to like and share, to also go on a YouTube channel and subscribe so that you can continue to receive the content that we provide for Money Mondays. We have entered into a new series. I know this is different from specifically talking about how we manage money, but we are talking about how do you develop as a leader and some of the key components that are necessary in order not only for you to influence others around you in making money, but also how to influence your team so that you are consistently making progress, not just in your financials and in your book of your office and what you want to make in your bank statements, but also in how you are moving your vision, your ministry, your business, your organization toward progress. How do you progress in that? And a lot of times it depends on us as a leader. How do we posture ourselves in such a way that we impact our organization, we impact our team, we impact our business, that we are always forward thinking? And so tonight we're going to be going into a fabulous series, conversation. The topic is going to be on conflict resolution. Listen, regardless of how we think we manage ourselves, you will always enter into an opportunity of conflict because you have human beings involved in this situation. And so we just want to feed your faith and give you the tools that you need to operate in that capacity because it will happen. So we want to encourage you, get ready for tonight's topic for Money Monday on conflict resolution. Get ready.
Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV, church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina Clovis, special guest. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Again, it is Money Monday. I'm Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. We are sharing information in our new series. This is still Money Monday. We're still talking about finances, but we're talking about how impactful, how you handle your posture as a leader, as an innovator, as a visionary in managing the business, in managing your team, and ensuring your organization has stability, ensuring your organization has the tools that they need to craft, to pivot, and to move through the necessary adjustments that come along with the seasons that come in managing your finances. And so we want to encourage you tonight. We're talking about a good session on tonight. We want you to like and to share, encourage others to come on board and join us tonight. We are talking about conflict resolution. How many know conflict is going to happen? Whether you are operating in your own business, it may be small, maybe just a few people, you're always going to have an opportunity to have difference of opinions. And you want that. We talk about that. Some conflict is healthy. It is good that you have some conflict so that you are able to motivate the organization to think differently outside of the box. It is a blessing when everyone doesn't have the same idea, the same concept. But when you bring in the collaboration of others, when you operate with your vendor partners, with those who are shareholders, those who have a stake in your business, they may have a difference of opinion in how things are going or how things they would want to move or maneuver. And so you have to be able to understand that we don't have all the answers. We have to understand that everyone may have a difference of opinion. There's some people who are working in your organization, their voice matters, and they should be able to influence us as leaders so that we can hear them, so that we can make sure that they are heard. Sometimes in our organization, in our ministries, in our business, our team, we have a lack of excitement. We have a lack of morale because they don't feel heard. They don't feel as though their voice is valued. When we have an issue that comes up, we don't oftentimes address it. We recognize that sometimes it is difficult to address conflict. It is difficult to have those conversations. But because we are a leader, we don't want to be this kind of person that waivers on that and negates that people also need to come to an understanding. Sometimes you have to give them time. You have to give them time and room to be able to understand what you have presented as far as the organization. Sometimes you as a leader have to be able to hold the gate even when people don't understand, sometimes even when they don't agree. But you cannot mitigate the fact that there will be conflict as we operate in the role of leadership. As you lead in your business, as you lead in your vocation, you will have opportunities for conflict. And so tonight we're just going to share just seven key tips that you can use as you mature in that area of conversation. We always want to carry ourselves in a posture of integrity, right? We want to be very truthful. There's a way to share the truth without being demeaning, without being damaging, without making people feel inferior. But we are going to share the truth in love. There's a way to bring about, we talked about that last week. How do we communicate? There's a way to give constructive feedback in a way that when you give the feedback, it can be well received. And so people, when they know your heart, they know where you come from, they'll be able to accept that. That won't always be the case. But in many areas of our lives, we find through relationship, they get to know us and they'll get to know you as a leader because you carry yourself in such a fashion that they can trust what you say. And so we're going to just talk about 7 key factors on tonight. Again, we want you to like and share. We're so excited to be on the Juice Radio and Talk Show tonight to give you this tooling, this equipping that can help us even as we maneuver through the next phase of our organization. How many believe that you're going to better? You want to go to bigger and better. And so because we stand in expectation, then we have to recognize that we have to posture ourselves in a new way and in a new light. And so with that, then you have to work with people sometimes who don't always have the same level of understanding, don't always have the same level of clarity, don't always have the same level of maturity. And so sometimes when you're operating in those kind of capacities, you're working with people from different backgrounds who might have trauma, who might have had certain circumstances, situations that maybe they haven't been healed from. Even us, even you as a leader may have had some experiences that have made you have a wall up, that have prevented you from being able to engage and have empathy and be able to be a part of the team more formally than you are now because you had some personal traumas. Well, here's an opportunity now on tonight for us to come to some understanding and really build ourselves up because we are the leader. We lead from the front. And most often the others on your team, they're going to pick up how they engage with one another from you. And so we want to set a healthy example of how to resolve conflict. A lot of us, we've had those experiences before. Well, we've been on a job and working in our vocation or even in ministry. And there are times when we've had to recognize that we need to understand how to manage conflict. How do we converse? How do we understand? How do we come to reason? And so again, sometimes people are not ready. Sometimes people are at a different spiritual maturity, but that doesn't mean you change your narrative or you change your posture. When the time is right and you have the conversation, then you can work to come to an area of understanding. Sometimes understanding is an understanding that we're not going to agree. Sometimes when you're operating in certain areas of your business, certain decisions you have to make as the leader, you have to be able to carry that responsibility and accountability. And sometimes you've got to help them along until they can believe. You've got to help them move along in the process until they can understand. And that doesn't mean that you stop what God has given you or you stop moving and maneuvering and moving forward. That means sometimes you have to over communicate. Sometimes that means you have to give them room and space to just have things digest. But we want to start right now. The first thing is we talk about conflict is understand the source of conflict. This is so key. Sometimes the source of conflict can really explain why you're having it. We just mentioned one of them. Sometimes people have trauma. And sometimes you as the leader, there's nothing you've done. And sometimes there's nothing you can fix in them to make them not want to have those kind of postures of being upset or always looking for ill intent. So there's times when you have to recognize the differences in the experience of the conflict. Understand, again, the source of the conflict. Where is this coming from? Is it personality clashes? Sometimes personalities are just different. And so with that, you have to understand how to speak the other person's language. Sometimes there's competition between resources, or competition between people. Sometimes that creates a sense of emotional contention, and that creates conflict. Is that the source of it? Sometimes it's poor communication. Poor communication can be a source of conflict, especially when you have people that don't want to communicate. It is difficult to come to understanding or clarity with someone who doesn't want to communicate, or only wants to communicate their narrative, or communicate from their point of view. There's always, as the old folks used to say, there's three sides to every story: yours, theirs, and the truth. And so what we really want to do is get to the truth of the matter. Why are you upset about it? There's poor communication. So how do we eliminate that? By making sure that we point out the key points of what happened. Then also there's role ambiguity. Sometimes when you're working, we often talk about stay in your lane. Sometimes when roles are gray and you're not sure what you should be doing versus what somebody else should be doing, that leads to a lot of conflict. That can be a source of contention, a source of strain in the relationship, in the operation of the business. And so we've talked about this in prior sessions, that it's so important that you clear and give clarity to the roles and responsibilities, because it's difficult to execute in excellence against a guideline or goal that you are not aware of. And so it's so important that we share what our expectations are. We share processes and procedure. We share that information. So again, we're pointing out what are these root causes that may have allowed us to fall into a portion of conflict. And so once you understand that, even before you go to address conflict, it's best to understand the root cause. This helps in finding a lasting resolution than just treating problem solutions and symptoms. So again, this is something that we really have to learn as leaders. Sometimes we're just fixing the surface of a problem, and it keeps showing up. Keep showing up because we feel like, okay, if I move you to this area, you'll do better. Well, okay, if I give you this new task, you'll do better, or you'll feel better, or your attitude might change. Sometimes we need to look at the root cause of why do you always have this attitude? Or why do I always find myself irritated in this circumstance or situation? Why does that feeling always permeate itself regardless of whatever situation I'm in? And so that's what we're talking about tonight. Identify, point number one, identify the source of the conflict. Where is this happening from? Is this a personality? Is this a behavior? Is this a mindset? Is this lack of communication? Where is the source? Because if I only fix it on the surface, Lord, it's going to keep showing up. This is so true. We see this in a lot of organizations. We see this in ministry. If I only fix the source and I don't fix the heart, if I just fix what they want to do and I don't fix why it is an issue to be receiving instructions, why is it an issue to get along? Why is it an issue? If I don't fix the root cause, it's just like a person that's going to get surgery. I've heard this story. Praise the Lord. This is a good one. I've heard this. It's just like you going to the doctor to have surgery and you say, I got cancer in this space. And when you come out, he said, well, I moved the cancer from there, but I moved it over here to your brain. That doesn't make sense to do. We're just moving around the issue. But what we need to do is look for solutioning. How do I solve it so that it doesn't keep showing up? How do I remediate it so that it is a permanent solution? And so we do that by finding out the source of the conflict. The next one is to adopt a positive and proactive approach. Encourage open communication. Encourage those on your team to have communication. Encourage them to talk about it. Encourage them. And now I will say this, set clear expectation about having conversation, because the conversation is to come to an understanding. The conversation is not to be something where it's a bashing session. It's not to be something where it's a condemning session, but it's a session to come to the truth of the issue, to bring about clarity where there may have been misunderstanding, to bring about a line of a definition around expectations so that it is clear, even when you finish it, where are we going from here? And so that is so key and so important, again, so that you establish what are those guidelines from here. Because to continue to have the same circumstance again and again lets you know you haven't solved the root cause. Oh, yes. To continue to have the same circumstance, to continue to find yourself in the same flare up, the same situation, the same depression, the same doubt, and the same concern lets us know we didn't identify the root cause of the conflict that we're handling. And so again, encourage open dialogue. That's point number 2. We want to make sure, along with that we're setting clear expectations, meaning making sure roles are defined, making sure this is our expectation, making sure we minimize misunderstandings. That's what we want to do. We want to minimize the misunderstandings. We want to make sure that I'm very clear in what I've said, what I've expected. And so that when it isn't met, then I have a good definition to measure. It is hard to give constructive feedback without giving a definition of what is expected in measurable terms, versus being very subjective. It's based on how I feel today. No, this is how we want to do this all the time, every day, all the time. This is my expectation when you have this role all the time. And so when we do that, we adopt a proactive approach. The next thing we want to do is develop key conflict resolution skills. So we as leaders, one of the best things that we can do is active listening. Active listening. I have to remind myself several times to make sure that I am actively listening, not listening to respond. So listening to hear, listening to understand, listening to empathize, listening to acknowledge, listening to show expression of feelings and acknowledge others' perspective. That's different than sometimes we can have the posture of defense. We don't want to stand in a posture of defense. We want to stand in a posture of, here's the meaning of why I did what I did or why I said what I said, and deliver that in a way of clarity, right? And so when they are speaking, giving them an opportunity to share. And so certainly, again, not to have a bashing session, but to make sure that we understand fully the feelings and expressions of others from their perspective. The next is having effective communication ourselves. Sometimes we fall in error because we're not clear. And so when we as leaders, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you have to be very clear about your expectation. Because when you give out instruction, when you say this is what we want to do, and you're looking for them to provide you with the feedback or the return on what you've instructed them to do, and it doesn't come back the way you planned it to, it's oftentimes because of a lack of communication. And so we want to make sure that we effectively communicate. We want to make sure that we have a level of emotional intelligence. This is so key. We always talked about IQ, how much we know, our mental intelligence, but there is definitely a level of emotional intelligence that we have to have when we're handling conflict. We can't be at 10, meaning in our feelings. And then we want to expect that we can operate in a conflicting situation that is also highly elevated. We have to be emotional intelligent enough to manage our own emotions, to bring our own emotions under control. We're still talking about Money Monday because this is a lot of reasons why some people lose out on money. Because they don't have the ability to manage their emotions. They're easily upset. They're not tempered. We can easily miss an opportunity because we haven't evaluated the situation fully, or we haven't handled it in such a way that there's opportunity to ensure that we don't lose the business, where we can come to an understanding, where we can come to clarity and still retain the relationship. You can disagree and still retain the relationship. That is part of emotional intelligence, so that we don't run off in anxiety, so that we don't act with insensitivity, that we carry ourselves with integrity and with tact. And so that even when there's a situation that in our flesh, in our humanity, we would want to operate from a different posture, having that emotional intelligence about this is business, having that emotional intelligence about what I say and what I do could impact my future income, could impact my business relationship, could impact the people that I want to influence in a positive way, then we'll understand how important emotional intelligence is in conflict resolution. Even when we're managing our business and we're doing contracts and we're having conversations with others, we need to have emotional intelligence enough to read the room. We need to be able to read the room. We need to be able to know and tone ourselves to meet the people that we're having conversation with. And so if we're a person and we talk very loud and the people we're talking with, their medium tone, you need to be able to read the room and adjust. Emotional intelligence. You need to be able to adjust in the way that we carry ourselves in conversation. That's what we talk about, having the awareness to have effective communication. Sometimes we use a lot of words to say the same thing. And if you're operating with a person who is quick on timing and has to go somewhere, you can become frustrated. And then that frustration is displayed because they're not getting what you're saying. Emotional intelligence will prompt you in many cases to say, was I clear? To stop and give the other person an opportunity to have dialogue. And so not for us to go on a monologue for 30 minutes and then wonder why we've lost everybody in the room. Emotional intelligence lets us know that my business is at stake. And so when I come to have a presentation, when I come and I want to have conversation, even when I come and I need to have a conversation that may lead to conflict, I've come in such a posture that I'm looking to come to an understanding. I'm not coming in looking for a fight. I'm not coming in going to war. I'm coming in because my business is at stake. What I have is on the line. My reputation, my brand is on the line. And so I'm coming with emotional intelligence that there's a difference between me, the person Tawana, and the businesses that I own. When I come in, I'm coming with a different mindset. And so that I have to operate and I have to posture myself so that even in conflict, I can carry myself at that level of excellence. And so that's where we have to mature and grow as business owners, because sometimes we miss great opportunities because of the last encounter that we had. And I want to encourage you tonight that we don't know everybody, but somebody that you met with, they know somebody. And so just like we want to encourage them so that we build repetitive business, so that they become Pied Pipers for our business, they go out and tell others about what a great job that we did for them, and we have a great opportunity to do so. We also have an opportunity to damage that brand when we don't leverage emotional intelligence, when we don't look at the aspects of having control, self-control, and to be mindful of managing our emotions and those of others, to handle conflict with sensitivity. We want to do that. Point number 4, choose the right conflict resolution style. So there's different conflict resolution styles. There's different ways that you can manage resolutions. And so you can look at it by collaborating. Can we work together? Is there a way that we can work together to come to a solution? And you can also look at it. You can look at it by competing. Is there a position when it is important to stand your ground, but be mindful of the impact with other relationships? So sometimes you have to say, no, this is what we're going to do because we don't want to lose ground in this area. I know you may not understand. Here's why I'm making that decision. So again, as a leader, we have to be able to communicate our point of view, where our position is. And we have to also be able to listen to others, but not be persuaded to do something that is outside of what you've called to do. Also, sometimes there's a middle ground. So collaboration, right, to find a win-win solution. But there's also a time for compromising in a middle ground of both parties for understanding, right, where there's a win-win opportunity still. How can we win? We want to not empathize and compromise, but not compromise in our values, not compromise in our integrity, not compromise in the truth. But we want to see where is it that we can operate in integrity, in truth, and that moves us forward and not keeps us held back in the same state. Also, we look at point number 5, focus on solutions, not the blame. This is so important. Oh my goodness. When we are looking at conflict resolution, we're not looking at cause and blame. We're not looking at saying who did it, whose fault it is. The first thing we have to do is to brainstorm and stay on the objective. The objective is to come to an understanding about how we got here, what is the root cause of this conflict, and then how do we solve for it? Because if we put our eye on the thing and not each other, we're still on the same team. When we put our eyes, amen, and our attention, our focus on solving the situation, we take our eyes off of each other. This helps to maintain a positive and constructive atmosphere. It's hard to work in an atmosphere where there is blame and contention and pointing fingers and looking down on each other. It's difficult to work in that capacity. But what we can do is say, what is the problem? What is it? Is there something in the manner in which it is being executed? What is it? Is it the execution manner? It is the execution timing. Is it the instruction? So you're looking for what is the gap that has created, what is the source, what is the root cause that has created the conflict, not the people involved in it. And so you want to brainstorm for solutions. Focus on the solution, not blaming. What is the solution? How do I get forward from here? How do we move forward? What are the methods? Having the parties contribute to understanding it. And then what can we do to move forward? Then follow up. Okay, we're following up to see and make sure that we're moving in that right path. The path that we decided to take. Is it working well? Is there a need or necessity to pivot? Is there a need to make some minor adjustments or some tweaks in what we thought would work well? Because this is the timing to do so. We're on the road to doing something different and doing something better. So now is the timing to make those kind of adjustments. And then we talked about know when to seek external help. Sometimes we need extra help. Sometimes we need mediation. Sometimes we need training. Sometimes in order to resolve some conflict that is very imperative, important, we need to invest in conflict management training. We need to understand what are some of those tools and techniques that we can use to come to an understanding and to make sure that we also create the culture and environment that we are continuous learners. We're continually developing. We're continually working together to move forward. When we keep all our team, we keep our organization, we keep our business eye on moving forward, even when you hit a roadblock, even when you hit a road, you hit a speed bump, you're able to move forward from that because our eyes are still on where we're going, not where we've been. And so again, and lastly, point number 7, we really want to create a conflict positive culture, meaning we view conflict as an opportunity. I tell folks all the time, even in ministry, even in my vocation, conflict is going to happen. I already recognize that because we're human beings with different mindsets, different backgrounds, different experiences, different ideas. And that in itself will lead to conflict. And so it is a natural, but there is a healthy conflict that can help us move into other areas of growth, other areas of innovation, and improve relationship when we leverage it in that capacity. When we leverage it in that way, we can move forward in it, even though we have conflict. And one of the best ways we can do that is lead by example. Demonstrate effective conflict management in our own behavior. Set a standard for our team so that even when you have conflict, you operate from a capacity of integrity, from love, empathy, from understanding, so that even when you recognize that there's a difference of opinion, you still move forward in the task that you know you have to do. We are encouraging you as a leaders to address conflict, that you do so in a manner that is beneficial to those that are involved. It can't be one-sided. It has to be where we're looking at those who are involved so that you come to an understanding. And so when the time is right, the scripture say, the Lord will make it happen. And so sometimes you have to look at where the maturity level of the people you're working with and how do you get them to that next level of understanding and clarity. Sometimes it won't work. I'll be honest. There are some who will say, this is how I am and I don't want to change. And so it is very difficult to move forward when it calls for change. A change is necessary. Change decisions, change choices, change mindsets, a new fresh lens and perspective is often necessary when you are going out of a conflict and you're resolving it. And so it's very difficult sometimes to work with those who are not willing to change. And so that's where we have to oftentimes use patience. We have to make sure that we're evaluating it from a business perspective. Is this something I need to continue to do? Because if it is messing with your money, if it's causing strain and contention and not moving your business forward, then you need to reevaluate whether this is the right thing you need to continue doing. And so there is a very big difference in that. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree. Sometimes there is a parting of ways that is necessary. But even in that, you can do that with agreement. So we thank you for joining us for tonight. Again, this is Money Monday, but we are in a new series, just really working on us as leaders and developing us in those core contexts and those core key skills that can help us move further in our business and in our relationships, both with our team, with our business, with our organization, and with our stakeholders and partners who can help us advance us in our vision and mission. I pray you receive something on tonight. Do go to the Juice Radio and Talk Show. Make sure you like and share. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you mention that Money Monday is on live every Monday. Continue to join us. I'm Pastor Tawana Grant. Peace and blessings to you on tonight.